Hello, my name is Evelina Stoyanova and I'm presenting joint work with Svetla Koeva and Martina Lamov on a quotation retrieval system for Bulgarian media content. Our presentation will include a brief introduction, then I will say a few words about the features we use to extract quotations, then I will explain the method we use and the online system the methods implemented in currently. I will show a brief demonstration and will conclude with some directions for future work. As the comedian Jerry Seinfeld once said, it's amazing that the amount of news that happens in the world every day just exactly fits the newspaper. But while this was true years ago, nowadays the situation is a bit different. Each day, 400 major media sources in Bulgaria issue over 20,000 articles, a total of 3 million words. So 10 editors would need an average of 100 hours to read and filter this information so that they can present it in a newspaper. So basically, currently the situation is this. Information made available on the internet has increased significantly. It is useful to analyze the behavior of various actors in the political and social life. So research in this area has applications in social sciences, political sciences, journalism, etc. So the objectives of our work are to elaborate on the practical aspects of quotation retrieval and attribution, to offer a meaningful, structured representation of quotes, which facilitates analysis of media content, and to offer a live service which processes media content on a daily basis and extracts quotations. We distinguish between two types of quotations: direct quotations, which are a literal representation of someone's words, like in this example, and indirect quotations, which are paraphrased speech. The so-called mixed quotations, where part of the statements is presented directly and another part is paraphrased, we actually divide into two separate quotations. The features we use to identify quotations, we divide into three groups. The first one are structural features, which are used for the identification of an attribution of the quote. Then the second group of features is the informational content features, which describe the content of the quoted text. And the third group of features are the external features, which are basically metadata, which describe the news article, the news text the quotation appears in. The so-called structural features include the span. So this is the span where the quotation appears. This can be one sentence or it can span over a few sentences. This also includes the syntactic patterns and lexical elements that are used to identify the quote. So these include reporting verbs, syntactic patterns, conjunctions. Also, a very essential feature is the punctuation, which is used to mark the quoted text. And the last feature is the source, so which is basically the speaker who produced the quoted text. And in the text, the speaker can be represented by a name, a descriptor, or anaphora. So in these examples, we show a different possible source representations. So in the first case, in the first example, the speaker is presented by his full name, Boyko Borisov. In the second example, a shorter version of the name was used, just the surname Borisov. Then example C shows a descriptor, which is the Prime Minister, which is equivalent to Boyko Borisov. And the last example And the last example shows an anaphora, toy, he. In some cases, a quotation can be attributed not to a person, but to an organization or a group of people. Like in this example, we got used to the interest the village of Delchevo says, which basically means the people from the village of Delchevo say. Or from the Bulgarian Socialist Party announced that the party does not approve the agreement. The second group of features are the informational content features, and they include any named entities, persons, places, organizations that appear inside the quoted text. Also, temporal expressions, dates, times, or expressions like yesterday, last week, next year. Also, keywords which describe the topic of the quote, and some elements that show opinions or sentiment, like the verb or the verb forms of the reporting verbs. And the last group of features are the external features, which are basically metadata about the news article, about the news text, and they include publication time of the text, media source, which is the newspaper or the website where the article was collected from, the author of the text, and the web address. For our method, we rely on the definition of a quotation as a triple of quoted text, source, and a reporting verb. Our method is applied on linguistically annotated text, including part of speech and lemmas, and it is performed in steps. So the first step is to identify potential sources. These include names, descriptors, and anaphora. The second step is to identify reporting verbs, which introduce the quote. Then the third step is to identify the quoted text. Then to perform source attribution, so to decide which of the potential sources is the quote attributed to. And the final step is to extract the informational content description of the quote. So how do we identify potential sources? Many named entities are annotated by the tagger and the lemmatizer, but we introduced a few additional rules to identify sequences of names. So, for example, a first name and a surname. And also to exclude geographic named entities, which are either adjacent to the personal name or used separately. Also, we use a dictionary of 31,000 names and corresponding sets of descriptors, like, for example, Boyko Borisov and the descriptor Prime Minister. And also, we define a set of simple rules for anaphora resolution. We don't use a complete anaphora resolution system, but we only use a few rules for which we are sure that work to a large degree, they work correctly. How do we identify reporting verbs? We also use a dictionary of reporting verbs extracted from the Bulgarian WordNet by collecting all synonyms and hyponyms of the verb govorya, speak. So also we recognize the full verb forms, including analytical forms, with their grammatical categories, so that we know the tense, the mood, evidentiality of the verb, which can be useful for analyzing the quotation. Then we identify the quoted text. We use pattern matching to find candidate quotations with their three components. So for direct quotes, we find the quoted text in quotation marks, and it can also span over several sentences. In the case of indirect quotes, the quoted text is a subordinate clause introduced by a reporting verb and subordinate conjunctions. We implement a scoring system in order to select only reliable quotations, and moreover, in the case of a few possible interpretations in source attribution, to select the most reliable one. So we use this formula, which is based on the distance between the components of the quotation: the quoted text, the source, and the verb. As you can see from the formula, if the distance is big between any pair of those three components, then the score becomes lower and lower, and basically the attribution becomes less reliable. So additionally, we introduce some penalties, which are in order to avoid cases which are less likely to be reliable. For example, if the name and the verb are on different sides of the quoted text, then it is very unlikely to be a correct attribution. If the verb and the source precede the quoted text, but then the verb is in active voice and is before the source, so this is an unlikely word order, which will mean that the quotation is not very reliable as well. And also, if the source is preceded by a preposition in case of an active voice, so this is also less likely to be a correct attribution, as well as if it's not preceded by a preposition in case of passive voice. So here we can consider an example. With respect to the candidate of GERB, that's the political party, and the words of Boyko Borisov, the European MP Emil Radev commented that the rules for president nominations and elections should be changed. So in this case, we've identified three potential sources, which are GERB, Boyko Borisov, and Emil Radev. And we evaluate the scores for each of them. For each triple of quoted text, which is in the brackets, a source, and the reporting verb comment. In this case, we can see that the highest score is for the source Emil Radev. So we attribute the quote to this person. The evaluation of the method is based on a set of manually verified quotations, 79 direct and 121 indirect quotations. So you can see the scores here. Now we come to the online system for quotation retrieval. It is part of a complex system for collection and analysis of media content in Bulgarian, and the workflow includes downloading text from several news agencies, processing and linguistic annotation of the text, quotation retrieval and text analysis, presentation of results, and also a regular update routine, at least once a day. Now I want to show a short demonstration how the system works. So it is available on the web page of the Department of Computational Linguistics in Bulgarian and in English. So here you can see that each quotation is supplied with metadata, which include the medium from which the quotation is taken, the date and time of publishing, as well as the title of the text of the news article it appears in, and the title is linking to the web page of the article. So here you can see the source of the quotation, and here is the whole quote, including the quoted text, the report verb, and the source. So here you can see that quotations attributed to the same person within the same news article are grouped together. Here quotations from Rumen Radev as well as Boyko Borisov. The system also allows filtering by author. For example, Liliana Pavlova. So now we can see quotations from this person. And here we have quite a few examples from the same text, and we can see that the source can be represented by their full name or a short version of the name, just the surname, as well as a descriptor, regionalny administrator. Also, it can be represented by anaphora. She commented. So the system also allows filtering by media, so we can only select articles appearing in Dnevnik, in which case we identify only one quote by this person in this media. And we can also select an interval, time interval, to see all quotations in this interval, so like for example from 30th until the 31st of August. Also, we have a quotation of the day, which is a selected quote from the day, and it needs to satisfy two conditions. One is to contain at least one keyword that is that appears with high frequency in the text from the current day, and also it needs to have a high score of confidence, so that we are sure that the quote is well attributed, correctly attributed. So our directions for future work include application of the system for English, and probably in the future for other languages as well, provided that we can supply with the language specific resources, such as the list of reporting verbs, conjunctions, and lists, dictionaries of descriptors matched to personal names. Also, we would like to improve the method further, as well as the online system to supply with more features and functionalities, and also to implement opinion mining in the future. Feel free to contact us for any details and to explore the system on the website of the Department of Computational Linguistics. Thank you.